Welcome to another episode of the Flats Nation podcast. And a big shout out to Brother Dave Fader down Amarada for the awesome music. You can check out more of Dave's phenomenal work on davidfader.com. Well, good afternoon. I'm your host, Dave Legier, and today we have straight in from the Berry Islands and Soulfly Lodge in the Bahamas, a bonefish guide and guru, Captain Travis Sands, the Flats Phantom himself. Brother, thanks for taking the time to educate and chat with us today. We've been working on this for some time, and I'm really looking forward to doing this one.
Yes, we have, man. And I'm really looking forward to getting this done as well, man, because I really wanted to get this done with you, but I've been so busy, after the hurricane and COVID and all of that, and just trying to get back on my feet and everything, and finally happy to be here with you, man.
Yeah, I know. We were speaking yesterday when we were working on this, and it's really been a double whammy for you, between Hurricane Dorian and then COVID. It's, it's like a 1-2 punch right to the gut for sure. So along those lines, how's the family doing, up in Abaco and everything? I saw that filming that someone was taking while you and your family were trying to hide near that backhoe. How is everybody doing? Is the family doing well, recovering from the storm?
Yeah, man. It's been like slow because, after Hurricane Dorian, it's like everybody basically lost everything, So it was all about like getting back on your feet. So like basically spend a lot of my savings, basically all of it, just trying to get back on my feet with a few help from friends who was not helping me along the way. But I figured, if like after spending this money, it was not just trying to get my family and everybody back on their feet. It's like going to be a no-brainer to start working and getting up and running again. But like it was like nobody saw COVID coming. It was like 3 weeks after like exhausting my basically savings, COVID rolled in and shut the entire world down. So there was no guiding, there was no jobs. It was just like it was like almost like unreal, man.
What a mess. Now, has that improved as far as the economy, and I'm more concerned about, your family's house and stuff? Did you guys finally get everything put back to at least being semi-normal by now?
No, in Abaco, no, I was renting in Abaco and everything. I lost to basically cars and clothes and all that. Like basically just property was not like that. But I didn't have a house of my own over there. I was in the process of getting one. But like basically that put a stop to all of that, and so it was just more or less when I'm getting home on exhausting a lot of my saving into my mother's house to make it comfortable for my family in the meantime, until basically it was getting back on my feet and getting something for myself.
Yeah. God bless you. We were watching the storm here in Florida real closely, and we were figuring it was going to come and hit us too, but that looked like somebody just dropped a slow moving nuclear bomb over the top of Abaco for sure. Lucky to have survived it. Really. I mean, it's just a blessing that everything at least got to the point, things can be replaced. You can always get a new skiff, you can always build a new home, but when people start losing their lives, I mean, that was a terrifying storm, and I'm quite sure that was an event that's marked in your memory and will be the rest of your life. Just God bless everybody, and I hope everything is turning around finally. So, with that in mind, I assume that during the storm you lost your own skiff out of the deal, or were you using the one at the lodge at the time? How have you moved forward from that? Did you get a new one, or how's that working for you?
Oh man, no man. After the hurricane, I didn't have a skiff off my own. I basically was running a skiff out of the lodge at the time. And the hurricane basically took all of those. And, basically, so it was like after the hurricane and moving back home to South Andres, because there was nothing left in Abaco. Everything was gone. So I just had to go back home and basically the clothes on my back. When I got there, I had a buddy of mine, that I grew up with. Was not his dad had like an old bone fishing boat, and basically me and him did some work on it, and get it up and running. But it was like basically his, and all of everything was his. But he basically understood and basically it was like a partnership into the boat that we got up and running. And I started my own guide business out of that inside South Andres. But it was like inside of COVID, as you know, and like there was no guiding in the Bahamas, and everything was shut down. So it was still basically a really slow process.
I bet. I bet. So I see you're now at the Soulfly Lodge in the Berry Islands. How's the fishing there been as compared to where you grew up and where you used to fish in Abaco? Is it better? Has it changed much since the storm? How has that all come into play for you?
Man, the fishing industry here in the Berry Islands is crazy. Like, I thought Abaco fishery was crazy, and back home was really crazy as well. But back home in South Andres, you have the big bones, and you have permit and top in there, but they're dispersed and very hard to, like basically put it all together back home. But I never put much work into it back home. But in Abaco, where you had your permit top and your bonefish, and I know where all of those were, and they were accessible on a certain time, but the runs were fairly far apart of getting all of them in one day. But the permits were also like more dispersed and covering ground and finding them. But here in the Berry Islands, the fishery is amazing and different because it's like the way the area is smaller, it's like everything is like right in grasp. And the permit fishing here is like nothing I've ever seen anywhere else, man. I've checked quite a few islands in the Bahamas, and the permit fishery here is like amazing because like basically every time I go looking for them, I encounter them. But I've never had that anywhere else. So it's really different here, something else. And you have your school bonefish here, and you have some fairly big singles and doubles here as well. So I love the fishery here because I think it's like more premier fish here for anywhere else I've ever done in the Bahamas.
Wow. Well, God, I need to come for a trip. That's for sure. Especially when I hear that you are seeing permit every day. Yeah, man. So now since the storm, and I don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that Hurricane Dorian really got into the Berry Islands as bad naturally as it did Abaco. Has the ecosystem changed much? Did it, yeah, and has it rebounded since that time, or did it just not have very much effect where you are?
No, the hurricane didn't affect the Berry Islands at all, or basically any other islands other than Freeport and Abaco. And the reason was, even though it was such a strong hurricane, it was a compact storm. It was not wasting energy all over the place. It was just it was like a big grinder, a blender in one spot, just moving very slow. And that was the crazy thing about it, for such a powerful storm to be moving so slow and so compact that it was not throwing energy everywhere. Because it didn't even destroy the entire Abaco, it just destroyed a certain section, like Treasure Key and Sandy Point, and those were not affected, but Treasure Key and Sharp and everybody else got like really affected. So it was like really weird the way it did what it did, So it was like, yeah, no effect here at all, and everything is working the same.
Awesome. So let's jump back a little bit in time. Tell me how you got started as a bonefish guide, and how many years have you been guiding now? The last I saw was like 12, but that's been a few years, I assume. So give me that background.
Oh man, I got into the bone fishing because of my dad. He's a bone fishing guide, but like basically growing up in Andres is like not a lot of other things you would get into basically. So it was like either being a bone fishing guide or being basically a commercial fishing police officer, not quite too much profession to choose from. But I always gravitated towards like the wild and nature. I love it growing up. I love hunting. I love going for crabs. I love fishing. It was always my thing, And when I found out that basically what my dad did and like how like cool it was, I just got drawn into it right away. And I knew right off the jump, this is going to be my profession, man. For me,
awesome.
Like, young kid.
So now is your dad still guiding?
Oh yeah, my dad's still bone fishing guide. He guides out of Bears in South Andres.
Oh, great. So now if I want to jump on, whose skiff do I need to jump on to get the big bones? You or dad's?
Oh man, my dad, like basically he taught me so much, but with the new millennium, there's so much more to learn.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, yeah, I think I'll give him a good fight for his money right about now.
I just want to know who I need to set reservations with to get after the big bonefish. So, okay.
The Flash Phantom, of course. The Flash Phantom, baby.
Of course. Well, I was leaning old school because your dad and I are probably pretty close to the same age, but that's all right. Oh goodness. So now tell me, what conservation groups are you working with now? And from what you've seen, how have those efforts improved the fishery?
Oh man, like I've done some work with BTT, like Carter's my boy with the one piece a day, coasters, with the kick plastic, and yet in all of those guys, I've done work some all of those guys, just ensuring the whole keep them wet program, the catch and release, the proper handling, with all of those guys. Like I basically implement myself in a lot of other groups. Like I follow the Four Ocean guys for well, everybody that's making an impact or the captains for clean water, all those guys I follow, and like I want to be a part of those guys and what they do. Anybody that's making an impact or footprint with getting stuff done with what's going on in the world, man, I want to be a part of, because it's all like, if you ain't fighting for your planet Earth, what are you fighting for right now? What's
Yeah,
going
it's true.
on?
It's true. I agree. We definitely have some problems with our ecosystems that need to be addressed, and they can be addressed fairly simply. It's just everybody's got to care, and I get it. I get it.
Everybody got to be on board. Definitely.
Yep. So let's talk gear now. So do you tie your own flies? And if you do, what is your favorite pattern and color profile? And I'm going to assume that changes throughout the year, like it does here, in Southwest Florida, different prey species, that move through. But what, if you're sitting there behind a vise, what are you going to tie up, and what's the probably the most numerous fly in your box?
Oh man, to tell you the truth, I don't tie flies. I've got into it a little bit, but I don't, because I'm a great micromanager. I got a few buddies that are really great tires, like Kyle Schaefer, Bob Cosgrove, and then they tied, and Drew Chacon was a friend as well, and they tied was starting. And I'll always be like, I'll whisper and Kyle and Bob Air all the time, like, hey man, you should put this here, or you should put that there, because like I always like, they create Frankensteins for me, I guess, like whisper in the air all the time.
Right. So what's your favorite fly patterns then? Let's say I'm going to give you 5 of them.
Yeah.
What's your top 5 that you got in your box for, let's say, year-round fishing where you are right now?
Oh man, like I'm a mantis shrimp guy. I'm a crab guy.
Are you good?
Like basically they all the flies I need for the Bahamas. When it comes to the flats, crab and shrimp. And like there's an occasional worm fly, but not everybody ties worm fly. It's kind of a secret. You don't want to like let the secret out of the bag. But fish love those things. They gobble them up. But there's not a lot of people that tie worms for the flats, surprisingly, But it's like occasionally shrimp and crabs, and the fish love them. You just know how to work for bigger fish. With working a shrimp, it's a different ball game. You can't be doing those jerky short strips. It's a longer, smoother strip, unless you got to hold your composure, not those, like they could feel that vibration through that line. So the minute you do a nervous strip or like you pop that fly a little too hard, they're out of there. So more or less changing your attitude with stripping and your approach with like where you're letting your fly land and how hard you can let it plop. So it's not too much of like favorite flies, is how you work it,
Yeah, presentation. I get it.
Presentation, baby.
Yeah. Now, do you have over there a palalo worm hatch like they have in the Keys, or these are just other marine worms that you're seeing in the ecosystem?
There are other marine worms. There's quite a few different marine worms, actually, and it's like, I guess everybody have their own hatch time or different times when, they're hatching or mating and they're moving around and fish are feeding on them. So It all depends if you like paying attention to the bait they're eating, you figure out, I guess, which like flies is on the flats they're more preferring at that point in time. But with like you say, the bonefish and over here and the primids and what's not name, they love you got a crab, shrimp, or I found that they really love like squimps pattern as well, the squids, because we have squids here as well, so they love a squid pattern as well, man.
So now what color are you making that squid fly? Is that more of like a darker purple type color?
Oh man, that squid fly, it's more of a brownish, bluish, like you could play with a little orange in it, you could play with squid change color, they're not one color.
True.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to play with a squid pattern, whatever color you want to put in there, because they're constantly switching colors. And that's why it's fun to play with a squid pattern, because you don't have to actually pick a particular color. You could play with a bunch of different colors.
That's true. Well, it's like shrimp, they pretty much match the bottom color. So you got to kind of have a little bit of range when it comes to a fly shrimp pattern, because of the different bottom, could be dark bottom, could be lighter bottom. I get it. So now Throughout your season there, and we're probably about parallel to each other. We have a pretty, I wouldn't say radical change in water temperature, but we do have some. I mean, we have a little bit of a winter. Our forage species changes throughout the year. Mostly the mullet, finger mullet and stuff start to leave. So where you're located now, do you have a real wide range in water temperature changes? And does that affect, what flies you're presenting to these fish?
Oh no, we do have the water temperature change in summer. The water get a little hotter, and that changed the fishing a little bit. Between they're on the flat early mornings, midday, high Sunday, they'd kind of leave the flats. They're not so much of them on the flat because the water get a little too warm. But late noons, they kind of come back, roll back onto the flats. But the pattern of fly doesn't changes with the water temp like that or nothing like that. I found the fact that it's very rare in the Bahamas that you have to match the hatch or something like that. Not like trout or anything like that. It's like they stay feeding on the same thing, but they get a little smart. I think the way you strip or move a fly or how you drop a fly on them. So like I say, it's more or less you're always changing your approach or your stripping technique, or basically more or less in that field, and you're changing flies.
So you're not making necessarily a fly change, with the tide or anything. It's all about presentation in the minute little things that you're doing with the fly as you're bringing it back towards the skiff when you're working those fish. Then
yes, it's more or less you're never having to switch on a bunch of flies. You'll have your lead eyes or your bead chains, and you basically switching them out for what depth you're fishing in, more or less. And you could have a lead eye or bead chain, shrimp or crab, so it doesn't really vary to just one species. So you could have a really lighter crab or a lighter shrimp, and you could basically change that for what depth you're in. I'll say 2 to 3 feet of water. You want a lead eye fly to sink a little quicker, get down there quicker, and work on the bottom. More in the sunny water, a couple inches of water, you want a bead chain fly because it's not going to plop that hard, and it's going to work just right in that shallow water. So it's more or less like your approach to your crab, your shrimp, or your worm pattern.
So now, what do you feel is the best weight fly rod and line for your ecosystem over there? And I'm going to assume that you're throwing the same for bonefish that you would permit. Most people aren't going to sit there and put down one rod and pick up another one. You generally don't have that kind of time naturally. But what do you feel in your area? What works the best?
And most bone fishing, an 8-weight rod works perfectly fine with an 8-weight line. It's perfectly fine. 12 pound LB leader, 10 pound. That's basically bonefish setup. Permit, you could get, they kind of get bulky. So I always like the fish a 9. You don't some people like 10s, but you don't necessarily need a 10. So a 9 will be for more or less permit or top one if you run into any of those bad boys. But a 8 basically could take any size bonefish you need to get in. 8-8 match up.
Do you get any big tarpon in that area? And when I mean big, I'm talking female tarpon, anything over 100 pounds. So do you see any of them that get that size there, or are you mostly seeing the smaller, what we call baby tarpon?
No, I've yet to see any really large tarpons here in the Berry Islands. I found some local juvies about 15 pounds, but nothing big, nothing migratorial yet. A few local fishermen I've talked to, I've say they've seen a few of what's done in certain areas, but I'm still doing a lot of work over here and figuring all of that out. But I haven't seen any for myself yet. But a few locals say they've seen some really big ones, but not for
I
myself.
looked on Google Earth. That's a big body. That's a big flat that you're fishing over there. I can imagine it would take quite a while to really slice it and dice it and learn its little idiosyncrasies over time. It's some beautiful looking water though. Brother, I need to just take a trip over there. That's for sure. Are you using basically a weight forward floating line for pretty much all of your fishing then?
Yeah, like a 40-foot weight forward. The additional setup. It's like bone fishing. Like you say, you're in the flats. 8-8 is a beautiful setup for the flats. For anywhere I assume. And you got you're fishing really bead chains more for the shallows. Anytime you get into 3 feet, like I said, 2 feet, you got you're back to your lead eyes. So, but the flats over here, I think they're amazing.
They look like it. Now, I assume with that water being as gin clear as it is, that you've got quite a bit of leader on that. Are you using fluorocarbon or what leader material, and how long do you generally prefer for your setups there?
But man, for over here, the leader material really doesn't matter, But for permit, I really do prefer a longer leader. I prefer like a 13 to 15-foot leader. Some people have a hard time turning that over. For most
Okay.
anglers, it turns over pretty easy than they think, But I'll fish like a longer leader for like permits with bonefish. I'll fish my regular 12 to 10-foot leader. They're not leader shy, but permits are. They see that lead line, and it's like, yeah, they're out of there. So I prefer a longer leader when it comes to permit fishing.
So now are you changing from mono to fluorocarbon, or are you just sticking pretty much with a mono type of leader pretty much all the time?
Yeah, basically mono most of all the time. More mono. Love that, the way that turns over.
And it does float, so that does come in handy also. Uh,
Exactly.
what brands of tackle are you using, and who are you sponsored by nowadays when it comes to your rods and reels and line?
Oh man, sponsors now. Like basically, I started to get into the sponsors post prior to Hurricane Dorian. I was doing a little bit of work with Nautilus and working with their reels, and the rod company was Looms. Like yeah, but then it's like after Hurricane Dorian, I just fell out of contact, and I haven't really got back into much sponsors yet. That's something I should start working on pretty soon, though. Just been like so much catching up after Hurricane Dorian. It's been very little like time for anything else.
Oh, I bet. I bet. So now, if somebody was wanting to get into fly fishing in that area, what would you recommend to them as far as a rod and a reel? Something that's just not. You and I both know fly fishing can be very expensive. Some of these rods are just, they're expensive. But if somebody's looking to get into the sport, what do you generally recommend to them as far as a good combo?
I mean, like the setup or the brand when you want a good setup.
Yeah, set up and then whatever brands that you've worked with, because I'm quite sure you've worked with several and seen ones that just couldn't hold up to the marine environment. Saltwater just ate them alive eventually. Of course, I get it. You got to take care of your gear, and I'm fanatical about that myself. But if somebody was wanting to, let's just say, come over there and they wanted to bring their own rods and reels that they've worked with and they've learned how to cast, what recommendations are you generally giving them?
Man, if you're a beginner born fishing client, I always recommend it. You start off with an 8. Eight is just perfect for for male, female. It's a perfect feeling rod, and you got an 8-weight line on it to match up. And then in your reel, same thing. It's just a perfect balance of rod, and you get to feel everything. With that setup. But like say brand type when it comes to your setup, I love a G Loomis. I love the way G Loomis feels, but G Loomis is really good to be on the pricey side for a beginner. But like I say, any 8-weight fly rod that feels good in your hand, if you're a beginner and and you like the way it feels with casting it, I think an 8-weight rod is the perfect beginning rod. Some people start off with smaller rods, like so. I don't think like for salt water, you don't want to get started because you have wind on the salt water. It's a windy area, so it's more you're dealing with more wind anytime. And an 8-weight's just a perfect rod for like slicing wind and feeling it. And we'll start thinking anything lower than an 8-weight rod with a beginner, it's gonna like kind of throw them off a little bit if you must. And when you get out into that wind, it's gonna be like really a little harder to punch into that wind sometimes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Very true. So now, if somebody is headed to come there and go fishing with you, do you need to be able to do a double haul, or do you feel that that's really not needed for the conditions that you're fishing in?
No, man. Like I say, for bone fishing, you never need a double haul. I have a double haul and I basically ever pull it out of my arsenal. You don't need it, you just don't, because your additional cast basically 30 to 40 feet for bonefish. And it's like you can make a comfortable cast without having a double haul with 30 to 40 feet.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how spooky these fish were and how close you could get to them that may require, a 50-foot or 60-foot cast.
Yeah, no, man. It's like you don't never need a double haul for bone fishing.
So now, what other fish are on the flats there that you're targeting? I mean, I know you're going after permit. Do you have any snook over there?
Oh no snooks over here, man. But you have tailing mutton snappers, triggerfish, barracudas. You have the bonefish, and the primate. Just the tarpons are still a question mark now. But like those are your species, snappers as well. Those are your species on the flat you could target on flies. And they're all fun on fly.
I know Barracuda can be quite a wild ride fight. They're pretty wild. Do you ever go out and specifically target them, throwing, a bigger fly and ripping and stripping it in as fast as you can, or are you just picking up Barracuda on he was there at the wrong time?
Oh no, man! Sometimes I got some clients or friends that we want to go at them and hit them up with flies. It's amazing. It's crazy, man. You get that fly in front of them, like you're saying. You start ripping that cooler, just charge up and breach hitting that fly. So it's amazing. It's crazy. It's a different ball game. I love it. Any tight line is a great time for me. I don't discriminate any like.
Yeah, really, a fight's a fight, and that's what I'm out there to do is pick a fight with something. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I've hooked into a couple of cuda. They're pretty wild too. They'll come out of the water. They're pretty wild ride. I've just never been able to get one back to the boat because of those teeth. They literally just cut through the leader most of the time. And I know some guys that target them, and they say, Dave, you got to have a little bit of steel in there just to help keep them from ripping it up.
Definitely, man. Just get a toothy critter leader.
That's true.
Yeah.
So now here, at least I am, and a lot of the guys I fish with are fanatical about what we call fish flies. So we're out there on the skiff, pending conditions naturally, but generally you're going to see us wearing, a sky blue shirt, something where we're helping to blend into the background because, you're up pretty high, especially if you've got a forward casting deck on your flat skiff. What clothing items have you found work best there for that ecosystem? And are there any of those are you sponsored by and big fan of?
Oh man, yeah, man. I'm sponsored by Sims. I love those guys. I love like every idea Sims come out. I'm a fan of, man. Like every new like clothing line, they're like outdoing themselves for the technology they're putting inside of them. It's crazy, and like they really keep their colors as light and low as possible, and I love that about them. And they play with so much different patterns and colors but it's all subtle, and it's great for the environment. It's great for like the blend in for when you're going fishing. Like you say, because like a bright shirt or something that stands out against your backdrop could be really like cost you some fish in a day. So, but like Sims have been doing a really good job at blending in with all of that.
Yeah, and they do a good job of helping with the materials that they use. You don't get as hot. You're not sitting there sweating to death in a lot of them. If you got a little bit of a breeze, you can generally stay comfortable in it. It's like anything. You're going to get what you pay for. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's a higher quality. So I understand totally. I've got a couple of their shirts and I love them. What about flats boots? Do you ever stake off the skiff and get out and start wading around? And if you do, what do you like to use?
Man, yeah, I love wading the flats. There's not a boots like I particularly prefer or nothing like that. I love going bare feet if the ground's good. I only pick really good grounds to wade on as well. But if I do have a rocky ground, I have some Sims like flat boots that I really love for like the really stuff that will cut into your feet that I wear all the time.
Talk to me about sunglasses, brother. Now I know that you're a big fan of Costas, and I am myself. What pattern or model are you using, and what lens are you using? And do you change lens as the day goes along?
Oh man, lens, fishing glasses, man, love Costas. All I know, all I've ever fished in, like, and they stay out doing themselves, man, with patterns and lens and the technology they're putting into the frames now. It's crazy. I love the Blackfin Pro, basically really they got some sweat grooves that runs down the side of them that keeps the sweats out of your eye. They got the adjustable nose pads, so guess those days when your glasses is just too snug on your face, you would adjust the nose pads on those, and they keep those glasses just up off your face where they don't fog, so it's amazing that how they thinking about it, and they came into the pro fishermen and got everybody like view on what they think they should put into them. And so I love the work they've been doing with the pros to like make their glasses to like top of the fishing brand, and they've been doing a really good job at it, man.
I've been using those 580 glass lenses for a while. I assume that's what you're using there. What lens color do you prefer on that? Are you going with your typical green flats, or are you going with the blues? What color do you like to use?
On the flats, I love my green lens for like high sun days, man. For like when the sun's really out, I prefer the green lens. Love those. But on like low light days, you want your yellow like reef tones, you know, your
Right.
reflectors, like they're really good for that low light. You kind of make everything pop, you know, just make that low light just a little brighter, give you that extra edge you need, you know, to get the job done.
Have you noticed a difference in visual acuity between the 580 glass lens and the plastic lens, or you haven't seen a difference between them?
Oh, it's a big difference between the plastics and the glass lens, man. Like I totally prefer the glass, you know. It's like they're easy to clean. Sometimes you could use a wrong material, or the plastic tend to get scratched just a little quicker than the glass would, you know.
That's true.
So it's like you could spray something the wrong material on and it kind of like messes with it a little, but the glass basically I have no problem with. You know, the only thing you guys got to be careful of dropping them. But you know, your coat just got those strings that you keep around your neck, help you from dropping those bad boys.
And I assume you're also rolling a buff up around them at the same time when you need to.
Most definitely.
Help keep the sun from coming in from the sides. And do you use the Buff brand, or have you found another one that you like that's, I know Gills makes them, and there's some other companies that make, you know, a face mask, you know, face shield, or which ones do you seem to gravitate towards?
Man, I love the Sims buff. They got Sims now. They built in some of the buff into their shirts, and I love their single buff, you know, because they got the way it hugs your face on your head on the top, and they got the holes in the nose piece, you know, because some of those buff that go straight up without those little holes in the nose, they fog up your glasses really bad. Or
yes, they do.
Yeah, they're kind of hard to breathe through those bad boys. But like, I think Sims have been doing a great job at, like, you know, the way they created those. And
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't really looked into theirs. I'll have to give those a try and see how they. Some of those, you know, they scratch your face up. They're a little rough, or they just. I'm not a fan of stuff just touching up against my skin where I feel like I got a balloon on or something. You know, some of those things are just too tight.
I know what you mean. Yeah, most definitely.
So let's say somebody's wanting to come and take a trip with you over there. So pretty much we've talked about 8-weight should work. I'm assuming they need to be able to cast at least 40 feet to be able to be effective. Or are they going to need to be able to hit, let's say, a garbage can lid at 50, 60 feet to really have a good time with you?
No, man. Say if you want to come fish over, like you definitely need about a 40-foot cast. Like you would catch any bonefish in a 40-foot range of you. It's like once you got a quiet feet, you're in the ballpark, man. So you got a 40-foot cast, you're good. 50, 60 feet, man, you're talking permit fishing. And if you got that inside your arsenal, I welcome you. Because I love chasing those devils as well.
Yeah, they're awesome. They are awesome. So now, should somebody bring their own tackle with them? Because I know that can be a little bit of a hassle getting off and on aircraft and different things. Or do you guys have enough tackle over there, and could they just show up with their clothing on and go fishing with you? Or do you feel that they need to bring their own rigs to really be comfortable?
No, you definitely get show up here at Costa Fly with no gear, man. We have enough gear here to support whatever you need, you know. But like some people prefer their own gear, you know. So if you prefer your own gear, you could bring your own gear. We don't oppose against that at all. But like we do have gear here for everything you need to come over here and catch your first bone or make it your however much bone it is. Like we got you covered.
What time of year do you feel is best?
For bone fishing, best bone fishing months. It all depends on what you're looking at. You know, you got your October, November. It's like more like schools in December, January, February. It's like more like our winter months. You know, it's not so much schools around, but bigger fish are around those colder water months and what's not. And then you got your April, May, June. It's like more schools and the migrant schools moving around, so it's more plentiful fish moving around those months. But like I'll say January, February, March, it's like more bigger fish are moving around in the flats those months. That's from my experience, what I've found, you know.
What in that water would you consider a trophy bonefish? Are you talking a 5-pounder, 7-pounder? If somebody says I want to go after a bigger bone, what weight are you getting into?
Man, if somebody wants I think a trophy bonefish for me is a 10-pound. And
that is a big one. That's a big one.
That's a plus. That's like a trophy fish for me. But it's all in the eyes of the beholder. You know, some people basically have been catching like 3, 4, 5 pounders basically all along they've been coming to the Bahamas, and then all of a sudden they catch a 8 or 7 and they're like totally fired up, like, oh, this is my biggest, and you're like, oh wow, nice, and you're excited with them, so as their expectation grow from like the last fish, it's like then when you get to the 10-pound fish, it's like bragging rights for life. Once you say you caught a 10-pound fish, like everybody respects that.
That is a big bonefish, a 10-pounder.
That's a big fish.
How many of those have you seen in your life?
Man, tell you the truth, I've gotten around. I've seen quite a few.
Well, wherever you've seen those, I want to fish. That's for sure. I want to be right there where you've seen them big ones. Dude, we could sit there and just stake off and sit there all day long and wait for them to come through on the right tide.
Man, I know a few sports you could do that. Not everybody got that patience or that endurance, but sound like you do. And I knew a few sports you can do that,
Oh, yeah. Just bring the Maverick over and just put the power pole down and just sit there and wait.
Most definitely. It's like you got to have the patience. You got to be a seasoned fisherman and have that kind of patience. Because most people, they want to be catching the whole time. Like they don't just want to sit there and wait for that big. It's just like a really good seasoned hunter. You let the little bucks go by and just wait for that. It's really that 10-pointer.
Well, and I think a lot of people seem to forget that a lot of flats fishing is more hunting than fishing, and I don't think they really equate that. You're up there and just like somebody who's hunting deer out of a tree stand. It's a pursuit. It's not.
But over the years, people have turned it into a catching sport. I think that's killed it for a lot of people, where how much you got? And it's like, that's not what it's about. It's like, man, it's about the mementos, you catch all of those fish. None of them really matters because you haven't had any special experience with any of those. You catch one single big fish, you can remember how he was coming down the flat, how he was tailing before he got to you, what turn did he take, how he charged your fly, the way that reel screamed when he took off. It's a different experience, and I think, and that's what we do it for, just to talk about and how we fought and like the story for it,
Well, and I bet that 10-pound bonefish, he's going to be ripping line for a while.
Oh man.
I mean, like that dude's, as we say here in Florida, that dude's headed to Cuba.
Oh, hell yeah. You can't even stop him. You're just here for the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Fire up the engine. We got to run this dude down. Love it. So now, if somebody's wanting to try to target a record, do you guys carry or have access to an IGFA certified scale if they are, say, fortunate enough to get a 10-pound bonefish on, 3-pound, 4-pound tippet? Do you guys have that capability to handle that, or?
Like, most definitely, if somebody wants to do something, but we don't have no skills. If somebody, I guess, wants to do something, you'd have to bring your IGF, scale or whatnot, and your setup, and hey, that's what it is, and we just go out and target and see if we can get you that fish on that setup, man. And you weigh your fish, and we get pictures and get all the proofs, and sure enough, it's all hell yeah.
Man, I'm ready. So now, when somebody wants to come over there and take a trip with y'all and stay, what gear do you recommend that they bring? And probably more important, what is it that they forget that they should bring?
Man, like I said, if you want to come over here, the gear I prefer you to bring us an 8-weight rod, 8-weight line, a total 8-8 match up, and we're starting your flies, leaders, your snippers, some wading boots if you have them, but like what most people forget a lot of times is sunscreen. So most definitely bring some sunscreen.
No, I bet. Now, if they come over there and let's just say that they haven't been fly fishing that long, or they're looking to partake of the sport for the first time, do you guys have the ability to spend some time working with them on their casting skills and stuff before you guys go out on the skiff?
Most definitely. That's like any great lodge, all of the guys are skilled casters, and have been doing it for quite a long time. So they get they'll definitely get first class training from any one of the guides here. And then it'll be like basically, just enough for you to be able to cover ground and get you that fish, because we've done it to just about every other lodge I've worked to at the pass, and it's the same thing here. A lot of great guides around. A lot of people are great, like teachers, and we'll be able to get you on that fish if you don't have no skill at all.
Awesome. Now, do they need to show up or plan, let's say, an extra day so they can get there early enough to spend some time working with you guys, out there on the grass and stuff to get their casting skills improved?
Oh man, we actually use the arena as our training ground. You get that training on the field, out there on the flats as fish move by you. So you're getting the whole experience, everything at the same
You're in a free fire zone.
Yeah, so it's like all your senses are in tuned.
Heck with this working out in the yard. We're gonna get out there and get on some bones.
Exactly.
I love it.
You can see them get the blood pumping, because I put you on the grass all day, but then when I get you out there, it's a different ball game.
Oh, it is. It is. You got the shakes and you see that dude and you're like, okay, I just need to lay it down in front of him. Yeah. Oh, it's a different ball game. I mean, you can get the basic mechanics of the casting down in the yard or the street, wherever the case may be. And I actually got one of those big yarn trainers because I'm working with Maria on, she's learning how to fly cast. And I think she's watched about one too many episodes of Silver King. She wants to go fight a tarpon. I'm like, okay, babe, well, we'll do it, but we got to get some skills improved first. But I just didn't know if somebody who said that they were newer or they hadn't experienced it yet, whether they might want to plan an extra day to work with you guys out there in the grass. But if you're going to put them on the skiff, go for it. I get it. That sounds awesome. If somebody wanted to come, can they choose which guide ahead of time that they want to work with?
No. It's like it's a rotation. It's like you got like 4 guys to rotate from.
Okay.
You could get you're going to rotate through the 4 guys, so you got to experience everybody, But if you got an extra day or so, you probably could get a guide you prefer, like a day after you probably experience everybody. You had to go back to the guide you prefer, I guess. Like
okay. So now, what airport do they need to fly into to be able to get to the Soul Flying Lodge?
Great Harbor Key Airport.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's probably flights coming out of the East Coast of Florida all day long going into there. So that's if they wanted to take a trip with you, Travis, can they contact you directly, or should they just go through the lodge? What's the best way to do that?
You could contact me directly, basically, and I'll just chart it up with the lodge and see the availabilities and basically get those guys fitted in there. But if you don't want to contact me and you contact a lot or mention this, the reason you're coming in because of me or whatever, it works for those guys,
So now, what website should they use to get a hold? I mean, I know they can go through the Soulfly Lodge website. Do you have a personal way to get in somebody wants to get in contact with you? Do you use your Facebook page? How do you work that?
Oh, more definitely. I work through my Instagram page. Got all of my links, my email and everything on there. Known as Flats Phantom, Flats_Phantom on Instagram. That's my Instagram handle, and you could reach me on there, and I have every information you need: phone number, email number, everything you need to get in contact with me.
Good deal. Now, has the COVID restrictions changed any? What preparations does somebody need to make to be able to get into the Bahamas and to go fishing with you?
The COVID restriction has changed. I'm not quite Lord and what all has changed, but it has gotten way easier than it was, So basically, if you're I think vaccinated, you just need a PCR test, I think.
Okay.
You're able to come in, and it's not if you're not vaccinated, I guess it's a different protocol. I'm not quite sure and all of that, but it's online. The Bahamas online, you could go and see what all have changed, and so it's all there for you,
Well, and I'm sure that somebody at the lodge could help somebody through that process also.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
How's the business been at the lodge? Is it starting to pick back up from the COVID, or is it, you guys still, of course, when do you ever have too many trips, when you don't have enough guides, but how's business been? Is things finally turning around for y'all?
Yeah, man. Business has been from the takeoff for working with Solar Fly Lodge. It's been great, man. It's the managers are great. Kyle and get you really great people, and the clients have come in since we opened up. Everybody's been really great, high spirit. Was looking forward to get out after COVID and what's not and things. So everything's at a great start. No complaints here at all.
Good deal. Now you guys are running what? All Maverick skiffs?
Yes, all Maverick skiffs are 3 Bs, 1S. Yes, what 74 strokes on them.
Now, which one do you normally run, the V model hull or the S model
Yeah,
Maverick?
definitely. I only run up the V. I run the V model. I love that boat.
17 or 18?
17.
17 Vs? Yeah, they're a nice little skiff.
Yeah.
Nice little skiff. I'm sure that's what, like a Lodge edition where it's got a wider bench seat in the front of the
Yes.
console?
Most definitely. Large edition.
What is your average trip time? I mean, are you just going out for, let's say, 4 or 5 hours, and then come back in and relax? Or how does a typical day with Captain Travis go?
Oh, a typical day with Captain Travis goes from 8 to 4. 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon.
And you guys are having lunch out on the water?
A lunch out on the water. We take a lunch in the coolers with us and water and everything, and find a nice cool beach with a shade if you want, and have lunch out there, or we have lunch on the go, whatever you prefer.
What about cameras? Should somebody bring their own camera, or do you guys have cameras on board so that you can get pictures? How does that work?
Most definitely can bring your own camera if you want. A lot of people like to bring their GoPros, have their phone with them or what's not name. But like with me, with myself, I always have a camera on board or something to take pictures, record some memories for you if you want them. So, and I'll make sure you get them to you, either by email or what's not. So it's like, yeah, whatever you prefer.
Awesome.
If you don't have any, I have one to take some pictures and get those memories to you.
That sounds great. Travis, brother, I appreciate you joining us today. It was awesome. We got to do it again. Let me come up with some. I'm quite sure we'll get some feedback on this one as to some good questions that I may have missed or skipped over. And so what I'll do is I'll look those over, and we'll join up at a later time, and we'll tackle some of those questions also. But brother, I really had a great time chatting with you today. Anything you would like to share with everybody before we go?
Oh, well, follow the Flash Phantom on Instagram, hit your boy up, see the great content I'm posting, and stay in tune with what's to come.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time. I know you've been really busy, and I know that your season is probably starting to get even busier after the holidays or even during the holidays. So I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to spend with us, and looking forward to doing it again. And more importantly, looking forward to coming over there and going for a trip. And I'm going to hold you to it. You're going to put me on one of them 10-pound bones, brother.
Most definitely, Dave. Come on. That's
yeah,
no-brainer.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I got my bags packed, brother. I'm ready to go right now. Awesome. Well, thanks again, brother. I do appreciate it. And looking forward to working with you some more in the future, and definitely looking forward to and you're more than welcome to come over here. I'll put you on some tarpon or something, but looking forward to coming over there and visiting with you and just relaxing and having a great time.
Of course. Looking forward to seeing you, Dave.
Thank you, brother. Have a great day, and give everybody our best.
You too, brother. Enjoy.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our show today and found it both educational and entertaining at the same time. If you or your company would like to join the team on Flats Nation for a podcast or other coverage, feel free to drop us a quick note at info@flatsnation.com. And now, here's the rest of the song to run the skiff back home with. Tight lines, and God bless.